Good evening, good evening, good evening, or I'm sure it's morning where many of you are from. Where I am at, it is currently evening. I am really excited to be here with you guys. Really excited and really happy to see you all. Hello, Brave Perry. Some of your names I do not know how to pronounce. 444. Hello, Finis. Hi. All right, let us get started with the Saturn in the 10th house video. So Saturn in the 10th. To get a few basics out of the way, Saturn is a planet that starts off small and weak, but grows bigger and stronger with time. What this suggests is that this individual starts from the bottom. He is someone who started off in life with no social power and no connections. He has had to work his way up because Saturn represents dirty clothes, beggars, individuals of a lower class. This may suggest one who started off truly in a very low position and was often abused, ridiculed, humiliated, shamed, and overall mistreated in the beginning stages of life. This is more true the worse place Saturn is, but naturally through time, matters improve. Now, the 10th house is the house of titles. What people know you as, what people call you, what people tell others about you, what is most noticeable about you, what you are actively trying to show the world. It is a house of pride and image crafting. Whereas ordinarily a planet in the 10th house would be very prideful and very image conscious, overly concerned with what other people think of them, crafting an image of themselves to sell to the world, fixated on a persona that conceals their true nature, and easily offended by anyone who pokes at their self-concept. Someone with Saturn in the 10th house would be less likely to engage in this sort of behavior, at least not openly. Whereas the 10th house usually makes someone quite prideful, boastful, and vain, I should really take out WhatsApp from my computer whenever I'm doing lives. But in any case, whereas the 10th house usually makes someone quite prideful, boastful, and vain, Saturn here would make an individual less interested in parading themselves and showing off their abilities, their intelligence, and their other virtues. Usually one who is strongly 10th house based would speak at length about their own great qualities. If one believes oneself to be intelligent, one would look for opportunities to constantly display one's intelligence, for example. If one values one's own beauty, one would constantly look for opportunities to parade one's own appearance, always looking to call attention to oneself by way of one's looks. But Saturn here would invert the common behavioral patterns of the 10th house, making an individual less inclined to show themselves off, less inclined to call attention to themselves, less inclined to look for opportunities to be seen. Instead, the individual would focus on humbly obeying and doing their task. But without their realizing, this humility and this dedication to their work gets recognized slowly but surely. It's evening where you're from as well. Okay, great. Oh, I see we have 17 concurrent views. That's awesome. I said that the 4th and 9th lord going into the 12th house. I thought you said 10th house. Last week I said that the 4th and 9th lord going into the 12th house generally means that the individual ends up an orphan. Well, I wouldn't use the word orphan, but yes, they would probably lose that parent, or that specific parent would not be around. What other factors could contribute to that? Right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything because I'm really in this 10th house video right now. But what other factors could contribute to that? I can't think of any at this exact moment. Hello there. All right, so let's get back to the image crafting house. But if Saturn is more negatively placed, it can create an individual who actually does indeed call attention to their work, always putting on a performance of being tired, being overworked, feeling underappreciated, so that everyone can notice how much effort they put into their work. always complaining loudly and conspicuously about how much work they need to do, or complaining about their employees or their boss, constantly sighing, never a smile on their face, constantly talking about how busy they are and how tight their schedule is and how much they never have time for anything. Which may actually be true, but they also may choose to verbalize this as a means of calling attention to themselves to make themselves seem that much more hardworking and professional than others. So, to summarize just a little bit the things that we've read up until now, the 10th house is the house of how you show off, of the various things that it signifies, right? It is a house of where you show off. But the thing about Saturn is that Saturn is not fundamentally a planet of showing off. So one of the more negative ways that a Saturn in the 10th house could show up, especially if it is badly placed, it is somebody who is always complaining. But one of the secret reasons why they're always complaining is because they secretly want to call attention to how much they work. You know, they go on and on about how long their hours are, how much they sweat, how little they eat, and things like that. And though from the outside you're inspired to feel bad for them or pity them, like from the inside, one of the reasons why they're doing that is because it's a way of them priding themselves on how hard they work. You know what I mean? And making them seem as though somehow that makes them better than other people. You know what I mean? So yeah. Because Saturn aspects the 12th house of indulgences, pleasures, and vices, and it also aspects the 7th house of romantic activity, the individual with Saturn in the 10th may actually be so consumed with his own career that he does in fact neglect to take care of these areas. And for this reason, he may not feel like he's actually enjoying life. He may be working and working, but for no clear purpose. Such a one may unfortunately neglect his family, represented by the 4th house, as well as his marriage. There may be an inverse relationship here where the more successful he is outside of the home, the more of a failure inside the home. But another interpretation is the following. These aspects to the 12th house of sexual pleasures and the 7th house of romantic partners could mean that this individual is incapable of attracting a partner if he has no social or economic power. If Saturn is badly placed in the 10th house, it can suggest someone who is socially and economically weak, someone who is oppressed or is quote unquote a slave, and for this reason is seen as sexually undesirable and so is often rejected and never enjoys the exciting experiences that the 12th and the 7th have to offer. So one last paragraph before we go to the chat. Since Saturn denies the signification of whatever house it sits in, another expression is that of someone who literally does not wish for power. Okay, so having Saturn in the 10th house could also suggest somebody who does not want power. They avoid power. This could be someone that may actually avoid opportunities to be seen, to be heard, to be noticed, either because they do not believe they are worthy of positions of power and authority, or because they are so attached to the concept of humility that they do not wish to exalt themselves above others. Naturally, because they avoid power, this is another reason why they can miss out on romantic and sexual opportunities, as well as miss out on the opportunities of acquiring tangible assets, the 4th house. This individual could be so attached to the concept of humility that he or she may believe that to have power and to exercise power over others is actually wrong, morally wrong. And instead, such a one may reject hierarchies and also subscribe to ideologies that remove power from authority figures and instead give power to the everyday person. They may subscribe to ideologies that believe that all people are equal and that no one should ever exercise power over anyone else. Okay, happy to hear that. I actually thought that was starting a little too early, to be honest. I wasn't sure if anybody would show up. Yes, it would also apply to the D9 chart, but in its own way. There's an echo. Yeah, there's an echo. The room that I'm in is a little... Sorry for that. I didn't realize it would be this bad. I do usually hear Ayanamsa, yes. Yes, it can also delay one's fame, absolutely. Anywhere Saturn sits, it's always going to be a delay. But depending on the kind of charts that you have, the delays may not be that severe. Like if you're somebody with Mars in the first house, for example, because Mars, generally speaking, speeds things up, it will speed up your whole chart in a way. Oh, thank you so much, Heavenly Sims. You're subscribed to my Patreon and you won't even change to the $8. You're very, very kind. Thank you so much. Oh, you have this in your D9 conjunct Rahu. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, and so Saturn is probably debilitated in your boyfriend's chart. We'd have to see if there's anything that cancels the debility, but that's interesting as well. So is your boyfriend the one that rejects the power, town girl? That's interesting. All right then, let's go back. So Saturn also represents those who oppress us, and naturally it represents slaves and servants. Depending on the condition of one's Saturn, one could either oneself be a servant or one could possess many servants. So Saturn either suggests that you're going to be a servant or that you have many servants. In this sense, this placement can also create powerful people who work behind the scenes, as Saturn is a veiled planet that works in shadow. And one only ever observes their henchmen and minions doing all the work as they bark orders at them remotely. In the 10th house, one's servants are the most observable thing about one. And so, if well placed, it indicates someone who only ever delegates and others obediently follow. One's personal power is owed completely to one's army of servile minions. Alternatively, one could oneself be a minion or a servant to a powerful hidden authority. You do not make the decisions, you only follow orders. If Saturn is well placed, you may be a wealthy servant like a CEO who obeys his shadowed board of directors. If Saturn is less favorably placed, one could be a minion to a less powerful force. One could wish to create an image of oneself of being very tough, very strict, very controlling, punitive, and hard to impress. This as a means of earning respect through a sort of intimidation factor. One could also go on and on about how supposedly hardworking one is oneself as a way of earning other people's respect and submission. One last paragraph. It is interesting that Saturn simultaneously is related to hierarchies, but it is also related to the rebelling against and rejecting of hierarchies, much the same way that Saturn is both the planet of enslavement, but also liberation. And so, Saturn in the 10th can strongly suggest an individual that exists within a strict hierarchy and is slowly trying to social climb his way to the top. But it can also suggest an individual who refuses to be involved in hierarchies and rebels against them quite actively. But both of these attitudes are related to dominating over hierarchies, as Saturn is a planet that starts off oppressed, but then through time and discipline overcomes his oppressors. One may choose to overcome the 10th house by participating in 10th house activities of social climbing and of climbing social and professional ladders, or one may choose to overcome the 10th house by completely rejecting the game of hierarchy altogether. Absolutely. I think right after Saturn through the houses, I think I'm going to start with Mars. I think I might start with Mars. Or maybe Rahu. I actually don't know. I'll probably do a poll, actually. Or even right now, we could do a poll. What planet would you guys... Hi, Blessed. How are you? Blessed. You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be somewhere else. Anyway, actually, we could even do a poll right now. Which planet would you guys prefer that I start with? I actually began writing for Mars through the houses, to be honest. I'm still at Mars in the first, and I also began writing on Venus as well. But like, which planet would you guys prefer I started with? Oh wow, town girl, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. How do you know that a certain issue is of Saturn's influence? You have to look at the various karakas of Saturn for you to know that. High moon cloud. You'd love Mars? Mars would be good. Okay, I see two for Mars, I see one for Moon, and I think I saw one for Venus as well. Mars again. Is Mars something you should do or avoid? I'm not sure if I understand this question, to be honest. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of people say Mars, so I guess when this is done, I'll start with Mars in the first. But before I start my Mars series, I think I want to make another nakshatra video, like a long form nakshatra video. I think that's what I want to do. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. Oh, by the way, you guys, please like, subscribe, comment on this video to promote this video. I'm not sure if when you comment on the chat, it really promotes this video. So please comment normally. And also please check out my Patreon. That'd be awesome. Check out my Patreon. Yeah. Mars again. What nakshatra? I'm working on Mula. I wanted to work on the second part of Ashwini, but I felt really called to do Mula. So I think I'm going to do Mula first, and then I'm going to do Ashwini. So yeah. 10 house pursues Saturn at Makaraka, and this is so accurate to my life and personality. Wow. Okay, awesome. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for liking the video. Okay, I see a lot of people say Mars, so I'm gonna make a note. Let me go to my little folder. Since so many people are saying Mars, and since I already started with Mars in the first, I'll just say, do this first. To just remind myself, since that's what we're doing. Your Mula ascendant conjunct Pluto. Okay, interesting. Do I? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know. Why would you say that I like the Ketu Nakshatras? I don't think I like them all that much. Not more than anybody else. Maga when? Maga, I'm going to do Maga after I do my second Ashwini video. That's when I'm going to do Maga. I haven't. I know you guys have been waiting for a long time, but I haven't. Am I still doing readings? Yes, I reopened my readings, my mini readings for right now. How would H? Don't know what this means. Okay, let me go back to the document. Where am I? Okay, over here then. So more on the matter of social climbing. We again see two opposite expressions. Either the Saturn in the 10th individual will not be a social climber and would actually prefer to befriend people of his same economic class, or this individual would be extremely picky concerning who it is that he associates himself with, expressing disgust and contempt for people who are poor, low class, not very popular, etc., judging them and avoiding them while slowly making associations with powerful people, sucking up to them, licking their boots as a means of gaining more opportunities. Naturally, these two very different ways Saturn behaves depends upon various things, like how well or badly placed Saturn is. A well-placed Saturn does not believe that there is a difference between upper or lower class people or any other division. It offers all people an equal chance. A badly placed Saturn expresses itself as the measurer, using a ruler to judge the worth of different people based on more superficial qualities. So, The better place your Saturn is, the less you see a difference between different types of people. Like to you, you don't discriminate between upper class, lower class, rich, poor, etc. But the worse place your Saturn is, the more you create a distinction, the more you discriminate between these two different types of people or between multiple different types of people. So if your Saturn is in the 10th house, but it's a little bit badly placed, you're probably going to be like very discriminating against who it is that you associate yourself with, because you're so busy trying to climb the social ladder, that you're afraid of associating yourself with people who are too low class or too unpopular, because obviously these associations will contaminate you, and so it's like you avoid those people so that no one associates you with them, so that you can grow more in power, basically. Yeah, that's what you would do. Saturn in the 10th again represents an invisible power. For Saturn is a planet of shadows, the unseen planet. And so it can again suggest someone who rises and rises, but becomes more and more concealed, exercising a power over groups, companies, collectives, and society without being seen. You may avoid cameras, prefer not to attend social events where your titles and your general position are put on display. It is as if the more influence you amass, the more secretive you become. You become one of those legendary figures that other people only ever whisper about, but whose records, birth data, pictures, biography, etc. are not readily available. And because the 10th house has so much to do with pride, you may indeed even pride yourself on the fact that you don't use social media. Pride yourself on never being immediately available to others. Pride yourself on never speaking too much and being the most quiet person in the room, who may actually possess great knowledge, but only reveals it to those who actively go after you for your wisdom. I say this because you're not the one. You don't care to give your wisdom. You don't want to give your wisdom because you want to be quiet. But people can sense that there's wisdom in you, and so they chase you for it, right? So yeah, moving on. In general, you pride yourself on mystique. And since the 10th house is where we craft the image of ourselves, you consciously craft a mystique about you that others cannot penetrate. Swati is not going to be this year, unfortunately. Yeah, I won't be able to do Swati this year. I might do a general symbolism and personality video on Swati. I might do that, but I won't be able to do Swati this year. Do I do transit? Yes, I do. In my 1-year prediction reading, I predict using dashas and transits, because dashas have much more to do with your internal world and the internal world of the people around you, whereas transits have more to do with like the external world and how the external world affects you. Like, consider the following, for example. Many astrologers say that like whenever you're running a dasha of a planet, you have to put that planet in your first house. Like, for example, let's say you have Mercury in Kritika and right now you're in your Mercury dasha. What astrologers say is that you must make Mercury in Kritika your ascendant. And so basically, during this time period, you become Mercury in Kritika and you make decisions like a Mercury in Kritika person in the first house. Yeah. Your psychology like basically is altered, you know what I mean? And so I looked for dashas to see the internal reality, and then I looked for transits to see what are the opportunities being given to this person during that time, essentially. Purva Bhadrapada when? Not this year. Saturn in Cancer. Saturn in Cancer is usually badly placed, but you have to see the position of the moon and other things. Sun and Saturn are enemies. If he has Sun and Saturn in Leo, then Saturn is really suffering. If he has Sun and Saturn in Leo in the 10th house, then that strongly suggests a social climber. That strongly suggests a social climber, yes. Someone who's very discriminating regarding like who it is that he associates himself with. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Somebody who's very concerned with his image. Yes, Saturn in the 11th house. I'm going to cover that. I'm probably going to do that this week. I haven't done Saturn retrograde. I don't understand retrogrades very well on a practical level, to be honest. I don't understand retrogrades, but then again, I haven't studied retrogrades too much. And so, no, I'm not really going to do a video on retrogrades, at least not anytime soon. Although I will do a video on Saturn returns. Prince William has 10th house Saturn. Interesting. Saturn likes Mercury, and so Saturn in Gemini is, generally speaking, well placed. You think your groom has Saturn in the 10th house. He prides himself in not socializing with others. So, interesting. Oh, this is very funny, actually, yes. How can you get a chart reading? You just have to email me. You just have to email me here. Yeah, that's the email that I use. A transit reading for a specific date, you would have to give me that date. I would have to check the dashas of that date and also the transits of that date. Yeah, I would do that. It's perfectly fine. Like if it's a wedding or the start of a business, that's fine as well. Saturn conjunct Rahu, is it bad? Well, here's one advantage. Well, it depends on the sign that it is. Here's one advantage of having Saturn conjunct Rahu. Rahu is too intellectual. Too intellectual. So intellectual that it is the head without a body. It can be so intellectual that it becomes paralyzed and it never acts and it does not live life. But the great thing about Saturn is that Saturn is the planet that rules the feet. Saturn is the planet that is the least abstract. And so it wants to apply everything within the actual terrestrial material plane. And so having Saturn conjunct Rahu can be a very good placement because what it can suggest is that you're somebody who you don't settle just for like intellectualizing things. You actually try to put things into practice. So yeah, Saturn Rahu in Taurus usually suggests that it's well placed. Would I ever share my big three publicly? I don't mind sharing my big three. I can share them with you right now. But I will say one thing about my big three. My mother confuses me with my birth time a lot. Sometimes she says this time, sometimes she says that time, but she usually says a particular time, you know? And so, just to go on a little bit of a tangent about my birth time, before she would say somewhere between 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., but then over the course of a year, she would be like, no, it's 8 p.m., it's 8 something, it's 8 something. So that would put my birth time somewhere between Shadabisha ascendant all the way to Uttara Bhadrapada ascendant, which got a little confusing for me, you know what I mean? Because there are certain elements of Uttara Bhadrapada that I relate to, because one way or the other, if I'm an Aquarius ascendant, then my first lord would still be in Uttara Bhadrapada because I have Saturn in Uttara Bhadrapada. And so one way or the other, I relate to those qualities anyway. But yeah, according to the birth time that my mother insists that I have, my ascendant is in Shadabisha, my sun is in Pusha, and my moon is in Vishaka. And then I have Saturn in Uttara Bhadrapada conjunct Ketu in the second house. So yeah. So yeah, I don't really mind sharing my big three publicly, I guess. Sun, Mercury with Saturn in the 10th house. If Sun and Saturn are conjunct, that's not the best. I'm not too sure if, in some ways, yes, paradise. Oh, wow, this name. Paradiscal lotus. Paradiscal lotus. Okay. So, see, a lot of times K2 the planet, and K2 nakshatras, and I'll discuss this more in my Maga video. They are intensely social climbing a lot of the times. But yeah, it could also be both in some ways. No, Saturn in the 11th house, it's usually a good house for Saturn. Are you guys familiar with MKS, Marana, Karana, Shtana for different houses? So basically, what is this? It is the concept that we all know that planets have debilitating signs, right? Sun is debilitated in Libra, Saturn is debilitated in Aries. But in Vedic astrology, planets also have their debilitating houses. You know something, let me just write it here, because I'm not really going to find instead of like hunting for an article, let me just write it. So the planets have their debilitating signs, but they also have their debilitating houses, the houses in which they operate their worst. So Sun's debilitation house, or Sun's Marana, Karana, Shtana, which quite literally means death-inducing, because that's how serious it is. The Sun's death-inducing house is the 12th house. Of all the houses, the house in which it operates the worst is the 12th. Moon's death-inflicting house is the 8th. Mercury is a bit of an issue, because some sources say, okay, but a lot of sources say the 4th, so I'll just put it here. Mars is the 7th, I believe. Jupiter is the 3rd. Venus is the 6th. What other planets do we have? Saturn is the 1st. What other planets do we have? And then Rahu and Ketu, they're not given. Or do they have it? Rahu and Ketu, Marana, Karana, Shtana. Does it exist? The 9th house. Let's see what other sources say that. The 9th house. Oh, Camilo Sultan also made a video about this, okay. So you can watch that video, or I'll watch the video myself. Rahu. Okay, this source also says that Rahu is the 9th. Let's see Mars again, because yes, Mars is the 7th. Some sources say that Mercury is the 7th, other sources say that Mercury is the 4th, so that's interesting. Oh, this same article is saying Mercury the 7th and Mercury the 4th, like right here. Okay, so that's funny. But in any case, and it's also saying that K2 is the 4th. So Rahu's debilitation house is the 9th, and K2's debilitation house is the 4th. So this is interesting. But now, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, there are many benefits that come from having these sort of positions anyway, but yeah, still. So for example, one negative thing about Jupiter in the 3rd is that you're somebody who is easily distracted. You literally have a difficult time concentrating, because the 3rd house is a house of concentration, and Jupiter is always expanding, you know what I mean? It's always going here, then there, then there. And so you're somebody who may have many, many interests, but you literally have a difficult time concentrating, and so you never accomplish anything. Mars in the 7th, this is a, what do they call that? Mangal dosh. And so it suggests like the end of your relationship. It suggests that like you're always fighting with your partner. You're always arguing with your partner. You guys are always irritating each other, etc., etc. And so it ends the relationship. Mercury in the 4th can make somebody like, I don't want to say it can make somebody a psychopath, but it can basically suggest that like you have no emotions. Obviously, this is not true for everybody, but it can suggest that like you are so logical, and your way of thinking is so cold that it literally freezes your emotions, and you literally have a difficult time feeling, you know. Moon in the 8th house, the moon is a planet of stability, and so in the 8th house it suggests the 8th house is the most unstable house, and so it's always going up and down, always going up and down. You're somebody, you're super happy today, and then tomorrow, and then in the next 5 minutes, like you're super mad, you're super irritated. You seem like you're stable in 1 hour, but now the next hour something happens, your partner does something, and now you're so jealous that literally you're bleeding from your nose. You get so jealous that your nose starts to bleed. Crazy things like that. Anyway. $30. Right now I'm doing my mini readings, and so every reading is $30. Where are we? Is Saturn in the 10th Pisces well placed? Depends on the position of Jupiter. Saturn and Jupiter are neutral to one another. Time rectification can be so confusing, yes. Funny thing, my birth certificate, weird thing, my siblings have their time. I'm the only one who doesn't. Thank you so much, Blessed. You're always so sweet. Oh, well. You are unsure if your moon is in Uttara Phalguni. Okay. So between Uttara Phalguni and Hasta or Uttara Phalguni and Purva Phalguni? The exaltation houses. Actually, I don't know about that. I actually don't know that. I'll look into that because I only know the Maran Karanas. Yes, you can just email me. I'm very sorry to hear that. Okay, let me go back. Where are we now? Okay. So we were talking about the mystique, right? Like the mystique that you're trying to craft. Part of this mystique may be either obsessing over the concept of quiet luxury, where you do in fact wear very expensive designer garments, but perform a sort of indifference to these items to make yourself seem above them and indifferent to labels, when really it could be the image of mystique you're trying to craft. Alternatively, because Saturn represents the working class, the image you may be trying to craft of yourself is that of someone who rejects luxury and someone who wears ordinary clothes, ripped jeans, stains on their garments. But all of this serves the purpose of signaling, quite loudly actually, that they are supposedly humble people. Saturn here could create a weird sort of reverse pride, where the individual may go on and on about how much they don't care about status, but because they are always telling people how little they care about status, they are consciously or not seeking status and seeking to craft their public image. It is their indirect way of positioning themselves as above the game of society. They may even publicly criticize those who enjoy obvious status markers, attempting to ascribe less intelligence or less moral virtue to them, as yet another means of making themselves stand out. They are trying to socially define themselves as superior to those who obsess over the everyday status markers of our society: fast and fancy cars, fine watches, fine dinners, associating with powerful people, traveling to foreign cultures, to foreign lands. One does not travel into a culture, one travels into lands and countries. Again, recall that Saturn here squeezes and makes smaller the 12th house of luxuries. And actually, because Saturn, when it's strong, is not only invisible, but invincible, meaning cannot be destroyed, such a one gets to keep their earned power for many, many years. And in fact, their power could have an impact on the world that lasts very long without ever wasting away. What else about Saturn in the 10th house? A lot of times people who have Saturn in the 10th house suffer from falls from grace. A lot of times those who have planets in the 10th may suffer from a fall from grace. like a huge fall from grace, like a deep humiliation. But one advantage of Saturn in the 10th is one never suffers falls. One never suffers grand humiliations. Right? Saturn protects you. Actually, now that we're here, we know of Malak and Anushtana. Why don't we go check that thing that someone in the chat said about exaltation houses, right? I mean, we know that there is such a thing as directional strength, right? Saturn's directional strength is the 7th. The Sun's directional strength is the 1st. Venus and Moon have directional strength in the in the 4th house. But is the directional strength the same as exaltation houses? Let's see if such a thing even exists. Jyotish exaltation houses. Planets are exalted in specific signs where they have more power. No, AI overview is not helping us to understand anything. What does exalted house mean in big astrology? Exalted planets? No. I think the closest thing that we have to exalted houses is directional strength. So yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, very interesting. Michael Jackson has Saturn in the 10th. Am I using whole signs? Yes, I use whole signs. Michael Jackson, but does Michael Jackson have like... Does he have like a proper birth time? Okay, here it's saying A, rotten rating A, 7:33 p.m. Over here it's saying A, 7:33 p.m. Okay, because a long time ago it was not A. A long time ago it was not A. But okay, interesting. And you know something else that's interesting about Michael Jackson's Saturn? His Saturn is badly placed. Why? Because Saturn and Mars are usually enemies. And because Mars is 6 houses away, they are definitely inimical. And so his Saturn in the 10th is badly placed. You know, it is badly placed. And so ordinarily Saturn in the 10th suggests somebody who does not suffer from falls from grace. But we're seeing in the case of Michael Jackson, I mean, Michael Jackson has had ups and downs in terms of his of public perception. And we're seeing that the first Lord goes into the 10th. And if you guys remember from my beauty video, you guys remember my beauty video, right? Let's go view channel. Where are you? In my beauty and Jyotish video, you guys remember when I told you that if the chain of lordship of the sun, moon, or ascendant is badly placed, that can really affect your appearance. Michael Jackson has his first lord and the lord of his moon very badly placed in the 10th house. You know what I mean? And Michael Jackson, what was that thing? It was vitiligo, didn't he? Like something very dramatic happened to his appearance. Something very dramatic happened to his appearance, you know. Yeah, it was supposedly it was vitiligo, supposedly. And he's had a lot of plastic surgery to the point where he became unrecognizable. Yeah, there's that. But what's interesting is that his sun is very well placed, and his sun is shining in that light into the first house, which could suggest that like his sun was really protecting his appearance and was really trying hard to protect his appearance as well. So there's also that. Yeah. If his Saturn were in the 12th house or the 6th house or the 8th house, because listen, when you have a badly placed planet, depending on the house that it's in, it could actually make things better. You know what I mean? The 6th house and the 8th house and the 12th house, these are malefic houses, Dushtana houses, but they're also houses of a lot of self-improvement, a lot of transformation. And so if you have a planet that is badly placed, but it's placed there, it actually makes things a lot better. It actually makes things a lot better because, of course, as you can imagine, there are many people in his timeline that were born with Saturn and Mars with this relationship. You know, obviously not all of them had like serious issues with their appearance. There are many things that can make these conditions a lot better, obviously. Okay, interesting. Saturn and Gemini. Saturn is well placed in Gemini usually, and so this is just a good thing. Funny, okay. Princess Diana. Princess Diana birth chart. Let's see, let's see. A verified. No, she does not have it in the 10th. She has Mars in the 10th. She has Mars and Rahu in the 10th, suggesting that she was very, very careful in crafting her image. And because she was a Jyeshta ascendant and a Dhanishta moon, Dhanishtas are extremely strategic, you know. Oh, too bad. I think I'm going to do my Dhanishta video somewhere in the end of the year if I have the time and energy. But the niches are extremely strategic and they're very long range and they pretend like they're much less intelligent than they actually are because part of their genius, part of their like game is that to pretend like they're not as smart as they are. You know what I mean? And so what this suggests is that she was very, very careful and very, very intentional about crafting her public image, but she liked to play dumb a lot. She also had Ketu in the niche apparently, you know, Rahu, third degree, so it suggests that she liked to play dumb a lot, but she was extremely strategic, you know. So there's that. Ooh, you're really going to take us all the way out of this topic. My mind is not currently working like that. But Saturn in Taurus is usually well placed. Malcolm X, let's see. Malcolm X. AA verified. No, it's not in the 10th, it's in the 11th. First, 12th, 11th. It's not. So no. Mm-mm. Oh, you're a Dhanishta? Is that what you're trying to say? Yes, Paris Hilton is a very good example. You felt like she was pretentious. Interesting. Dua Lipa has Saturn in the 10th. So first, 12, 11, 10th. Yes, Dua Lipa has Saturn in the 10th. She does, in fact, have Saturn in the 10th. And she's a Maga Sun and Venus. How very interesting. And it's A verified, okay. From memory or autobiography. Okay, cool. I'm using sidereal, of course. Sidereal always, see? Sidereal always. Even though Astro Theme has like slight degree deviations, because Astro Theme is not Lahiri. Astro Theme is not Lahiri Ayanamsa. But, you know, if I'm really focused on the degree, I'm not really going to use this site. I'm going to use Astro Seek, but whatever. Who's birth time? Your sister has her Saturn in the 10th house. Oh, good for her. All right, guys. So any more questions? We've been here almost for an hour. I think maybe Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to have our Saturn in the 11th live stream. And I think maybe this week, I'm going to do another general symbolism and personality video. Another one. So yeah, any more questions? Michael Corleone, the Godfather character. That's the Godfather character, what? What's my email again? My email is this. But, okay, whatever, yeah, this is my email. Michael Corleone, that's the Godfather character, isn't it? The one that I have on my... Yeah, it's him, Al Pacino. A shadowed figure. Yeah. Career delays, definitely. No, I'm not gonna cover Anuradha. I'm not planning on it, at least. Al Pacino has Saturn in the 10th, exactly. Oh, you did? How's that going? And which one are you doing? Actually, no. Don't share which one you're doing, because usually the yogi said that you're not supposed to share which one you're doing anyway. But I'm just very curious. I'd like to know. But you don't have to share. But that's great. Are you noticing any results? Are you chanting it verbally, mentally, or like... Because we spoke of like the 4 levels of chanting, right? How are you chanting it? Also, I just found your shine on my... I'm not sure if I understand that. You're more exhausted than usual. Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. Oh, you just found my channel. Oh, awesome. A live stream on Lakshmi. The next time I'm going to speak of a goddess, I'm not going to speak about Lakshmi, actually. I'm probably going to speak about Tripura Sundari. And in relation to Tripura Sundari, I'm going to speak about Revati, Purva Palguni, and other related nakshatras. I might even throw in Uttara Palguni into that as well. Although I will note, you're not really going to hear from many places that these nakshatras are related to Tripura Sundari, but there's a way in which I will relate these nakshatras to Tripura Sundari, so you'll see it there. Why don't you try chanting it mentally? Try chanting it mentally. Which one is my favorite Mahavidya? To be completely honest, I actually don't have a favorite. I have a favorite for the season, because different seasons I focus on different ones. Are they internally feminine? Would I describe them like that? Internally feminine. I'm not sure if I would describe them like that. But there is something of a gentleness in them, yes. Yang. They are yang. And not just Venus men, even Venus women are yang. Because as a general rule, benefics are yang because they are giving. They have a lot to give. Malefics are yin because they are taking. And so Venus nakshatras and Jupiter nakshatras are very yang. And then Sun nakshatras are so yang that they actually end up destroying the vessels, you know what I mean, of what they're pouring themselves into. Because, so for example, astrologers usually say that like the house that your sun is sitting in, the sun is destroying that house. The sun is so yang that it actually becomes malefic. It gives so much to a particular house that actually destroys it. It burns it. So the sun is also a yang planet. Venus, Jupiter, and sun are very, very yang planets. Yes, Venus nakshatras are very attached to their partners a lot of times. K2 is definitely in. K2, Saturn, Mars, Moon are yin. Mercury goes back and forth in between. Rahu is a malefic, yes. It is a malefic, yes. But to be honest, I'm actually having a difficult time understanding how to categorize Rahu at this exact moment. Because on the one hand, Rahu is also a projecting planet because it projects its energy the same way Sun projects its energy, the same way Jupiter projects its energy, the same way Venus projects its energy. Rahu also projects its energy a lot. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I would place it as yang. I'm not too sure about that. All right, guys. Yeah? Oh, that's a very interesting observation. Very, very interesting. Anyway, you guys, this has been a very lovely stream. I'm always so happy and so excited to see you all and to talk to you all and to read your chats. But I think this is where we part ways. And so thank you guys all very, very much. Goodbye and see you sometime in the coming week. Bye.